Welcome back to In Focus. California has long been in competition with other states like New York and more for the title of most crime-ridden dystopian hellscape in the country. Recent data suggests that the Golden State, in name only, might be pulling out the lead lately by consensus of the people. California's population has plummeted by 500,000 over the past 2 years. 500,000 Californians have relocated to a new state. It's almost 21,000 per month, 5,000 a week. Nearly 700 people every single day, 7 days a week for 2 years have been fleeing the state. And that's probably an underestimate, considering these are official reported numbers. A lot more probably unreported. COVID lockdowns were a big driver here, but not the only one. Cost of living, quality of life, and crime are also behind the exodus. You would think, in response to this, maybe California's leaders would see these numbers and realize there's a massive Grand Canyon-sized disconnect between what they're doing and what the people want them to do, such is the case in Ohio. Or else people wouldn't be leaving. There's a reason blue states all share the same biggest problems. It's because they share the same type of leadership that has yielded the expected fruit, rotten fruit. If California's lawmakers want to keep their residents from being former residents, maybe they would consider cutting massive spending, tax relief, stop charging people $70 if they overstay their parking meter for 5 minutes. And maybe, just perhaps, crack down on crime. Go all in, arresting people with drugs, petty theft, and more. Bring down the hammer. The residents of California would greatly appreciate that. So would business owners. But sadly, instead, California's leaders are worried about making sure police canines don't hurt suspected criminals, the same ones that are destroying the state, because doing so is racist. You can't make this up. On Monday, state lawmakers introduced a bill to ban law enforcement from using their canine units in a scenario where a suspect might be bitten. A man could be armed and ready to kill, and California Democrats are most worried about him getting a boo-boo. Corey Jackson is an assembly member who co-authored this bill. He wrote in a statement, quote, "The use of police canines has inflicted brutal violence and lifelong trauma on Black Americans and communities of color. This bill marks a turning point in the fight to end this cruel and inhumane practice and build trust between the police and the communities they serve." You're probably starting to see why 500,000 people have fled the state in just 2 years. All right, let's bring on the one and only Captain America to discuss this. He joins me right now to react. Former Lieutenant Police Officer and U.S. Navy Officer, Captain America, Steve Rogers. Great to have you on the show.
My pleasure, Addison. Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate you being back. So crime is out of control in the state of California. People are overdosing left and right. Business owners are fleeing because they're tired of their stores getting looted. And all California Democrats are worried about is canines biting bad guys.
Addison, this reveals to me, and I'm sure others, that we truly have a mental health crisis in California, beginning with the lawmakers. I mean, anyone who believes that the reforms that they're trying to implement in that state will help reduce crime, they're simply sadly mistaken. I could tell you, let's talk about the dog bites. I mean, this is ridiculous. Canine handlers are well-trained police officers. Anytime I've seen a canine deployed, it is because the officer does not want to, now hear this, does not want to shoot and kill the individual suspect who's fleeing. They want to capture them alive. A dog takes the suspect down. Dog doesn't know what color the suspect is, for goodness sakes. Takes the suspect down, and now you got an individual who's alive and who will be able to be brought into custody. The idea of people fleeing and leaving California, I get it, I understand it, and I would recommend that anyone who has a desire to become a police officer in California think twice, because your job will be in jeopardy as a result of these reforms.
Yeah, the purpose of a canine is to one, apprehend a suspect, keep them from, like you said, getting shot. Two, it's also to protect human beings, right? Humans. Those used to be valued over animals and seen as more important, and certainly law-abiding citizens more important than the criminals, but that's not the case anymore. Now, do they not understand this, Lieutenant Rogers? Do they not get what you said, where these dogs, they bite? It's either get bit or get killed very often?
Well, Addison, you're right. They don't understand. They don't understand because they have never gone through any type of training. They've never sat in a police car. They never have been with dog handlers to see how they react. What is amazing to me is they should have looked into how many canines, how many dogs were killed in the line of duty, protecting, as you just said, other individuals, potential victims, and protecting law enforcement officers. They don't know what they're talking about. It's all politics over and over again. But their measures will fail as others have failed as a result of their misguided ways.
Yeah, we have another attempt to try to solve this crime problem, try to, just totally tone-deaf messaging from the Democratic Party here in California. This is a headline: Los Angeles tries to fight crime with yoga at a cost of $2.2 million. This is from the Daily Caller. Now, NBC Los Angeles, before people try to discredit this, their headline reads, LA city officials launch unarmed alternative to policing, and they write in here, quote, Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez announced the Project Turn initiative at a briefing Monday at the New Testament Church of Christ in South LA. The program, launched with $2.2 million in city funding, seeks to help the over 100 community intervention workers in the city with training provided by the community-based public safety collective, the Reverence Project and Build program. They will provide therapy and other activities such as yoga, meditation, and healing circles. This is the new unarmed alternative to policing, Lieutenant Rogers. Your reaction to this is just insane.
Well, if more of these Democrats who are making these proposals were in prison, where they probably belong, as a result of their misguidance, they would realize that what they are proposing is being done. That is actually, those things are being done in prison. They've got therapy in prison. They got their little circles where they get around and they talk about the past, the present, their future. They've got yoga. They've got gyms. They've got everything in prison that these individuals are trying to use to prevent crime. Now, here's the catch. With all of what I just said that these inmates have in prison, they still get out, and what do? They commit crimes. So this is another rabbit hole that these individuals are going down, trying to appease, I guess, some of their constituents. But at the end of the day, they're going to do nothing to help everyone. The cross-section of people who live in their community, no matter what color, religion, or creed, those poor people are going to be affected dramatically by an increase in crime and not a decrease in crime.
Do you have any hope that this trend is going to reverse? That you look around and you think, how can it get any worse than this? But apparently it can. Do you think it'll get bad enough to a point one day where Democrats finally wake up and see, okay, maybe we should actually try this enforcing the law thing. Maybe we should actually not treat criminals with kid gloves. Do you think they'll ever come to that realization?
I think it will, but there's a sad commentary to this. It will, and believe me, I don't wish any ill on anybody. It will that when crime affects the very people that are imposing these laws upon their citizens, that's when it'll change. Just last week, a lawmaker in a state was unfortunately smacked around in an elevator, and all of a sudden, this individual changed their cry to defund the police to saying, we need more cops. It's always those who are sitting behind a desk imposing rules on the people that will not turn their message over to something that will help all the people until they become victims of crime. I hope to God it doesn't take that, but to answer your question directly, yes, it'll change, hopefully before more tragedies occur.
You know, I can think of a time back in America where I don't think yoga and healing circles were common practices to combat crime. And I think, arresting bad guys and cracking down and being really hard on the bad guys was when crime wasn't that bad in America. So maybe we could reach back a couple decades in the past and learn some lessons, Lieutenant Steve Rogers. Great to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.